Good morning. We can do better than that. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you. So it is my great pleasure to welcome you to our undergraduate research proposal presentation symposium. Today's theme, research, a key transformation for student success, perfectly captures the spirit of what we are doing today. The power of research to spark growth, innovation, and transformation in our students' academic journeys. This symposium is more than just a venue for presenting research ideas. It is a platform for curiosity, creativity, and collaboration. Each proposal we'll hear today represents not only diligent effort, but also a step toward building the skills, confidence, and mindset that define true success in and beyond the classroom. As presiding officer, I encourage each of you to engage actively, ask questions, share insights, and support our presenters as they take this important step in their research journey. Congratulations to all of our participants, mentors, and organizers for making this event possible. I wish everyone a productive and inspiring session ahead. Now, we have the program as presented, so we're going to bring up next Dr. Osakwe, the Director for the Center for Transformational Student Experiences, who will give us a welcome, and some brief opening remarks. Dr. Osakwe.
One of you, good morning. I hope we are all doing fine. I am truly excited and thrilled to one more time have everyone here to do our academic research proposal symposium. And especially the students, we are extremely excited to have you. My name is Dr. Nneka Nora Osakwe. I'm the Executive Director for the Center for Transformational Student Experiences, where we help ASU to ensure that all the students who are here at ASU have this transformational experience embodied in undergraduate research, global learning, and several experiential learning, including Fulbright. So today we are here to begin yet another undergraduate research academic year. And we have started this earlier with a call for proposal. And with this call for proposal, we have our students submit their intent to engage in another year of undergraduate research. So this morning, it is my pleasure to start by acknowledging the presence of distinguished students, the undergraduate student mentors, who dared to submit their application, because it's not easy to do. They dared, they sought for their mentors, worked with them to submit their proposal. And that is the first step. I also want to acknowledge the reviewers. We had a number of them. They had several meetings, and they agreed on how to assess the submitted abstracts and did the first selection. And apparently, every student here has scaled through that process. And please give them all a round of applause for doing that. I want to also acknowledge not just the faculty mentors, but all the faculty members as a whole, and the staff members who have helped us to put this all together, and they do it on a yearly basis. We are so honored to have all of you here, and we appreciate the support that you give us. We acknowledge the VPs that are here. Special among them is our VP, Associate VP for Institutional Research, Institutional Effectiveness, and Title III, Dr. Archer. If you can just wave your hand so that they will acknowledge you. With the help of Dr. Archer, we are able to make this possible. He is the one that looks through our grant and makes sure it goes through. And this year, we succeeded in getting approval for another 5 years of a grant that will keep funding this project. So we are truly, truly happy about that. Please, a round of applause for Dr. Archer for assisting us. We want to also acknowledge the chairs, the deans, the directors, and all of them for making it possible and announcing and making sure that the students are part of this. We truly, truly appreciate all of you. I'm sure at this point, some of you might be wondering, why are we putting in so much effort in undergraduate research? Why is it critical to have undergraduate research and have students to engage in this process? Well, you might want to understand that undergraduate research has been rated as one of the high impact practices. High impact practices in education is the practice, the method that ensures that students are actually engaged in experiences, practical hands-on experiences that challenges their critical thinking, that challenges them to collaborate with one another, and that ensures that they acquire that discipline that is required throughout their career and entire life. People who engage in undergraduate research have been known to be retained in school, especially students from underrepresented aspects of the society, like students in historical Black colleges. So that is why we are joining to make sure that no student is left behind. So you are all models. You are models. You are leaders in this, and you should remember today, because in future you will find yourself to be the leader that we are looking for. So thank you so much for being part of it. Now, secondly, undergraduate research in various fields help learners develop skills and ultimately transfer these skills to other things they do in life. And another reason for doing this is as they engage in research, they are actually practicalizing interaction skills, writing skills, collaboration skills, and general communication skills, which are critical in life success. So, it is no wonder that the University System of Georgia ensures and engages and always asks for data of undergraduate students' participation in every institution. And we usually make sure that we have this data ready. So what happens after this undergraduate research proposal symposium? At this symposium, we expect every student, you've already submitted your abstract, you've already submitted your proposal, but this is a time to show the audience that you actually did the work. That you're going to be the one to engage, no longer your mentor. You're going to tell us what your title is, you're going to tell us what your method is, and how you plan to implement. Remember, not your results yet. Because once we say go ahead, then you can begin to engage with your mentor, who you will meet regularly, weekly, bi-weekly, and now finish up this research. And in on April 17, save the date, please, you are going to return here to tell us the outcome of your research. So please write down that date. Do not book any travel on that date because we expect you to come back. Okay? So that is the plan. We have lots of people here to support you. We have the faculty, and we have a keynote speaker. Our special keynote speaker today is Dr. Whitehead. He's going to be officially introduced, and he is also in the process of putting this all together. I could not have done it all by myself. It is collaboration. Collaboration with individuals, collaboration with VPs, collaboration with departments, collaboration with distinguished faculty, mentors, scholars. And we have all of them here. Some of them are not here for some reasons. But suffice it to say that I'm truly excited and I welcome all of you, and I hope this endeavor, academic endeavor, will continue to advance academics, scholarship, and success at ASU. Thank you so much for being here, and I yield back to our presiding officer.
All right, thank you, Dr. Asakwe. Let's give her another round of applause, please. Without her leadership, vision, and guidance, this would not be possible. And again, congratulations to our student presenters. I just took a moment to read over the topics that will be presented this morning. I'm excited to see what you all will be sharing with us and helping me learn more about as even a faculty member here myself. All right, next we should have our welcome and opening remarks from Dr. Jason Armstrong, our Associate Provost, in place of Dr. Rhonda Porter, so Dr. Jason Armstrong.
Good morning, everyone. Clearly, I'm not Dr. Rhonda Porter, but she sends her regrets for not being able to be here this morning, and I hope I can do her justice this morning. So it is my distinct honor, on behalf of our President, Dr. Robert Scott, and our Provost, Dr. Rhonda Porter, to welcome you to Albany State's Fall 2025 Undergraduate Research Proposal Symposium, a day that's going to shine a spotlight on some of our brightest minds and boldest ideas. The theme this year, research, a key transformation for student success, really captures what today is all about. Research doesn't just happen in labs or libraries. It's a journey that challenges how we think, how we see the world, and how we solve problems. It transforms students into scholars and ideas into impact. It reminds us that student success isn't just measured by grades or graduation, by growth in critical thinking, creativity, and the courage to seek out problems to make us a better world. I was looking through today's program yesterday and writing my remarks, and I have to say this group of presenters and presentations is impressive. There are some words in some of these titles that I couldn't even pronounce and I had to look up, especially some of the science ones. There's a reason why I'm a social scientist and not a natural scientist. So I'm really impressed to hear some of these presentations. And I was looking through them, some of them stood out, all of them really stood out, but we have students like Latasha Collier, who's conducting research on the mental health of first-year students here at ASU, research that could have a direct, measurable impact on how we support student success. We literally had a meeting yesterday, almost a 2-hour meeting discussing first-year students and student success. So we were really interested in the results of that one. Francesca Onuma is asking tough and timely questions about the risk of using AI as a substitute for human therapists, a topic that could not be more relevant right now. I kind of lead ASU's efforts at artificial intelligence on policy here, so that is something we're actually struggling with and dealing with right now. Orion Watson's case study, Who Watches the Watchers? Power, Abuse, and Accountability in Corrections, forces us to confront uncomfortable but necessary questions about authority and responsibility. Trinity Boggs, exploring homelessness among U.S. military veterans, highlighting the human cost of policy gaps and systemic neglect. Tamaya Williams examines discrepancies between training goals and self-selected resistance training intensity, research that blends science, behavior, and human performance in meaningful ways. These projects, and so many more, all the projects really, show us what happens when curiosity meets opportunity. There are also some incredible mentorship happening here at ASU. Our faculty mentors deserve a special thank you for guiding these students, pushing them to think critically, and helping them find their scholarly voices. If you're a faculty mentor, please stand up right quick so we can acknowledge you. And give a round of applause to our faculty mentors. The role they play is great. I've mentored students at this symposium before. In fact, the last 2 students that I've mentored are both currently in their last year of law school. So this could really take you places. I also want to thank and recognize Dr. Nora Asakwe and the team, and the whole entire team at the Center for Transformational Student Experiences. Their commitment to student research and faculty collaboration make events like today possible. So as you listen to the presentations today, I encourage you to do more than just take notes. Be inspired, ask questions, make connections. Every project here today represents hours and hours of effort, creativity, and persistence, one that brings us a step closer to understanding something new about our world. So on behalf of the Provost Office, congratulations to all of our presenters, mentors, and reviewers. You make Albany State proud. So thank you, and I wish you all productive and inspiring symposium.
Dr. Patrick Whitehead, Professor of Psychology here at Albany State University. Dr. Whitehead is Professor of Psychology, Adjunct Professor of Graduate Education, and Coordinator of General Education here at Albany State University. He has published 7 books, over 30 articles, book chapters in the fields of psychology, philosophy, higher education, and theoretical biology. His most recent book, published by Rowman and Littlefield, is entitled Autonomy Supportive Teaching in Higher Education, a Practical Guide for College Professors. In this book, he explores the psychology of student motivation in the classroom and how faculty can make the most of it. Dr. Whitehead has always included students and colleagues in his research. His publications and presentations have featured 10 former students and 7 current and former colleagues as co-authors. He is currently working with students and colleagues on an original qualitative study examining the role tattoos play in the Black community. Working with the Center for Faculty Excellence, Dr. Whitehead will soon be hosting an 8-month workshop for junior faculty who are interested in conducting applied classroom research. Beyond campus, Dr. Whitehead is on editorial boards of interdisciplinary journals of qualitative research and philosophy, and he is an ad hoc reviewer for many academic presses. He particularly enjoys helping younger and early career scholars develop their writing skills and style. Audience, please help me give a round applause for Dr. Patrick Whitehead.
Thank you for those kind words. And thank you all for coming today. Thank you especially to my students and colleagues who are here to support me. And thank you to the students who I'm looking forward to hearing from. I wanted to turn down this invitation to be speaker today. I wanted to turn it down because I don't feel like a researcher. Not really. Sure, I've conducted a few studies and have published the results. I've written books about research, but I feel sort of like an imposter. I wonder if you, some of you at least, feel the same way. I think the problem is that I learned in college that research is a very serious activity. Research follows methods that have long and complicated names, such as Foucauldian analysis, and it answers arcane philosophical questions, such as, what does it really mean to be happy? The process, I learned, is painstaking and tedious, and every step must be followed exactly. That research is sort of like building a spaceship, but using tweezers. If it comes easily or if it seems fun, then you're probably doing it wrong. But that hasn't been my experience with research, so perhaps I'm the one doing it wrong. So keep that in the back of your mind as I share what it is I have to share with you today. To repeat, just in case I've been unclear, I stand before you today not as an expert researcher, here to tell you what you ought to be doing. I'm just a guy who is mostly interested in writing and who has some experience conducting original research. And so, I want to look with you today at what it means to be a researcher, or who one is when one is a researcher. This is called an ontological hermeneutic analysis, but don't hold that against me. I didn't invent the name. In particular, I want to describe being a researcher in those moments when a person is most like a researcher. Therefore, having lots of research publications only indicates that a person was, at one time, a researcher. A long CV says nothing about whether one is capable of continuing to be a researcher. We are all of us capable of being researchers, so today the ground is leveled. The method I'm using today comes from Germany, specifically the works of Martin Heidegger and Hans-Georg Gadamer, but don't worry, there won't be a test on this. I just want to give credit where it's due. In his analysis of being human, Heidegger describes what he calls the care structure. For the purpose of today's talk, we can understand that our being as humans is different from the being of calculators and SPSS programs. We can imagine a human person who is very much like a calculator, who can compute sums and fractions and standard deviations in their heads without making any mistakes. We might even celebrate this person as being brilliant. Still, they would fail to be a researcher in very basic and essential ways. You see, you and I participate in research in ways that the calculator, or the human calculator, cannot. For instance, we wait expectantly for the result. Our mood can rise and fall with p-values. We are excited by possibility, and we want the world to be a better place because of the work that we do. The results matter to us because we care, and we bring caring with us wherever we go. To understand being researchers, we must understand how caring fits in. Indeed, it wouldn't be a study worth publishing if nobody cared about the results. And an important part of evaluating the quality of a study is assessing how important it is to society. The calculator, well, it can only calculate. So today I want to talk about what it means to be a researcher. That is, an essentially human process. Heidegger's care structure comprises 3 parts, which I will define in turn, and these will help us understand what it means to be a researcher. This, by the way, is a sketch of him that I did. An artist I am not. So the first part of the care structure is authenticity. This is characterized by openness to possibility. In research, examples include creativity, curiosity, exploration, and discovery. The second part is constraints and limitations and circumstances. These are strengths and weaknesses we bring, our past experiences, the mentorship we have or are lacking, and so on that lay the foundation for our research capability. And then finally, there's the herd mentality, which is doing it the right way, following convention, research methods, techniques, and skills used during the research process. This symposium and the year-long undergraduate research process will focus a lot on this. But note how it's possible to get trapped into any one of these. The authenticity-driven researcher will explore foreign horizons, but they're so far gone beyond the periphery that nobody can understand what they're doing. They bring back their discoveries, and there isn't a language to communicate them. The researcher focused only on their limitations and constraints feels sorry for themselves. I'll never be a great researcher, they say, because I lack the mathematical skills, and they never came easily to me. And the type A conformity-driven researcher is anxious about following all of the rules. They do only that which has already been done and are incapable of genuine novelty. Being a researcher requires each of these in balance. We cannot escape our circumstances and limitations, and publicizing our work requires that we follow convention. But if we were to describe what it means to be a researcher, I suspect we would find in the first bullet point, authenticity. That's how you and I are different from calculators. So what I plan on doing today is tracing the development of us and you all as researchers. And it just so happens that I'm writing a book about this topic. In it, I follow the clinical psychologist Richard Knowles, who describes Erik Erikson's familiar psychosocial stages of human lifespan using Heidegger's care structure. In the book, I describe what it means as humans change as we grow up. Now I will turn that analysis towards the development of the researcher. So hope. Hope belongs to the earliest social need to belong. Infants either trust that their environment is safe and that they can relax, or they remain stiff and withdrawn, and tragically suffer from shriveled spinal cords. Hope is something we experience bodily. Take a moment right now to experience the difference between a relaxed abdomen and a tightened one. Actually focus on tightening and constricting your midsection as if a boa constrictor is wrapped around it, and notice what changes in your perception. Notice how your awareness of the world around you changes. Think about what it would be like to give a presentation while that is happening, and then try to consciously relax your abdomen. The hopeless person is defensive, they are closed off, and they're under tremendous strain. Keep in mind that we can relate to this process of being researchers. That is, we can be hopeful or hopeless. In adulthood, hope is different. Rather than trusting that the world will accept us as persons, in adulthood, hope is saying yes to, that is, trusting, others, loved ones, projects, careers, and so on. As researchers, hope is the ability to say yes to a new research project without having any guarantees that the project will work out, that it will pay off, in a manner of speaking. Hope means giving a project the time it needs without rushing it along or smothering it. Now, with each of these, I want to apply them to the mentors who are here and colleagues, as well as students. So first, as mentors, this means providing space for students to grow and develop as researchers without sighing disappointedly and without doing the work for them. Sighing disappointedly and doing the work for them would be the opposite of creating space for students to grow as researchers. Now, students, this means jumping into the process with both feet without knowing how deep the water is. It is impossible to know where a line of inquiry will lead you. History is filled with examples of people who thought it was a one-year project that turned into an entire career. My favorite example is psychologist Martin Seligman. To summarize his career, in graduate school, he conducted an experiment that challenged 50 years of American psychological theory. An impressive feather in his cap, wouldn't you say? But it took him years and years to fully appreciate and understand just what he had done. Today, he is responsible for the most rapidly growing theory of clinical psychology in the world, positive psychology. Students, that could be you. That could be your project. Or have you already placed little imaginary limits on what it is you're capable of? And colleagues, that could also be you. Moving on to will. In childhood, will is what accompanies a toddler when they explore what they can do today that they couldn't do yesterday. In adulthood, willingness extends to your and my responsibilities. Being willing means taking partial ownership for these responsibilities. As a willing researcher, I do not begrudgingly accept the duty of designing thoughtful classroom activities. I take this work on as part of my identity as teacher. Yes, the universities and students expect of me a certain level of commitment, but I too want this for myself. I am willing to teach. Students, think now of the projects that you will be proposing shortly. Think of the months of IRB applications, data collections, analyses, and paper writing that await you. These are the responsibilities of the undergraduate researcher. But will you accept them as part of your emerging identity as a researcher? Think of that. To be grateful to learn how to conduct a, t-test, or calculate a correlation coefficient, because these are analytic skills of a researcher, and they are therefore part of who you will become. Colleagues, I know that many of you, maybe even most of you, do not have the time to maintain an active research program. I know this because in many cases you've told me, are you willing to be a researcher? If so, then part of that is wanting to make time for it for yourself. By the way, I'm not pointing fingers. I make a poor example of the willing researcher. I am a willing writer, and I more or less begrudgingly do the research bit as an excuse to do the writing. Now, it would be a mistake to confuse willingness with willpower. Willpower is effort, usually the beads of sweat on forehead variety, without any trust. Willpower is putting your head down and muscling through your project without listening, without learning, without responding, and without benefiting from others. It's the researcher who has stopped noticing things, who has stopped interacting with the world. I have many personal examples of this, so feel free to ask during the, what will probably be short, question and answer period. Next is imagination, and don't worry, there's only 5 of these. One of the most exciting periods of research is the early part where anything is possible. I personally think through the life of a book project well before I've ever sat down to write it. I imagine it in print, the audience it will have, their reaction, and so on. I'm awash in a warm glow of optimism and cheerfulness. It's a lovely way to spend an afternoon. But dreams without a plan of action amount to nothing more than fantasies. Fantasy means getting lost in what could be without ever experiencing what is. I suspect that many of you students are imagining what life will be like once you've completed this project, or once you have your bachelor's degree, your master's degree, your doctorate. You imagine how the world will look at you differently, and how the world will look differently to you. What I'm saying is, don't stop there. Think right now about what you can be doing to make that future happen. I recently had this problem with a book I've been writing. I began it almost 7 years ago, but it wasn't right. I had even obtained a contract, but something about it felt off. It felt off about the book, that is, not the contract. Contract was fine. I had a fantasy for what I wanted the book to be, but I didn't understand what sorts of revisions it was going to require. I didn't know what to do. And so the book sat. I took it out once a year and looked at it and smiled, but then I get a few chapters in and become overwhelmed because it was wrong and I didn't know why. And then one day, this August, I think it was, I figured it out. I discovered the mistake I had made, which meant I knew how to revise the manuscript. Suddenly the book transformed from a pie-in-the-sky fantasy into a real, achievable goal. That is what I mean by imagination. Now, I can't really translate this into a bit of advice for you all, because I don't know what your goals are. I don't know what you want to become or how research will fit into that. I guess what I can suggest is that you go beyond having dreams. Begin thinking today about what you can do to take one step closer to that dream, then another, then another. Competence. As a teacher, I am willing to support the intellectual, but also the emotional and social growth of my students. We saw already that this means I adopt these general goals as my own. But I cannot stop there. I must also develop the skills necessary to support these goals. If I don't, then I would have a sure recipe for disappointment. There are many, many goals and skills that go into being a first-rate researcher. And two first-rate researchers may share few skills in common. The sort of imaginative and divergent thinking that makes a good philosopher is quite different from the convergent and analytic thinking that makes a good experimenter. To students, which skills will you develop? Which kind of researcher will you become? Dr. Osakwe and her team at the center, and all of the mentors here, have indicated to you and will continue to indicate the skills we think you'll need to learn in order to be excellent researchers and scholars. These will include ethical considerations in training, research methods, analytic tools, and even how to write a good abstract. Each is a valuable skill in the researcher tool chest. For my colleagues, are you an effective mentor? What are the skills that you will develop that will improve the quality of mentorship that you provide? And, by the way, I think it would be a mistake to follow general advice on mentoring, because doing so would ignore your skills and intuitions as a researcher. This is a scenario for which your mentees will have something to teach you. Here's a question you might ask them. What is something I could be doing for you that would help make your learning experience better? And fidelity, and this is the last one. The last stage of development within the care structure that I'll talk about today is fidelity. Fidelity is what remains of commitment after the promise of the commitment has lost its promise. It's easy to work on a project when the novelty is there. I always ride a research high after getting an article published or after spending a weekend getting inspired by fellow researchers in my discipline, such as at a conference. Students, you might well be chomping at the bit excitedly after the symposium to go out and collect your data. But the enthusiasm will not last forever. You'll find many, many hours of thankless work waiting for you. No fireworks or confetti or handsome keynote speakers will be there to encourage and motivate you. What I mean is that there will be an onerous, boring, and tedious work to do. Will you stay faithful to your project? Of the 12 or so students I have worked with over the years, only 3 have shown the fidelity I'm talking about. Everybody is eager at the beginning. Everybody is ambitious and optimistic. Proposals are submitted and there's an endless supply of creativity, but then months go by without correspondence, deadlines are missed, time ticks by until it's 10 days before the spring symposium and the IRB application still hasn't been submitted. It will happen to many of you unless you choose to remain faithful to your project. It's easy to remain faithful when it feels good and is exciting. It's something else to remain dutifully committed when the project has become a chore. Colleagues, the research and especially the publication process is lengthy and work-intensive. Your projects need a champion to fight for them. I suspect that for every PhD in here, there are at least 2 unpublished papers. Maybe you've collected the data but still need to write the manuscript, or maybe you've written the manuscript and received a rejection, or maybe it's something else. These are the forgotten projects, forgotten because their promise has faded. Students, does it surprise you to learn that many of your professors, even your mentors, procrastinate and find excuses and miss deadlines? I hasten to add that my talk today is not held together with any sort of ethical glue. My purpose is not to denigrate or judge. I began today by admitting that I am a poor representative of the mature and fully developed researcher. I drag my heels during every step of the process. I rush through revisions, and it's been a long while since I've really immersed myself in descriptive data while trying to understand a phenomenon. I want to end today with an invitation to my colleagues and their students in the humanities. I'm thinking specifically about English, fine arts, history, disciplines in which important scholarship is happening. The Association of American Colleges and Universities, which is the association responsible for naming undergraduate research as a high-impact practice, admits that these disciplines are often ignored in research settings. There is a bias that favors the natural sciences and that favors data collection and analysis. But listen to this rationale the AAC&U gives for undergraduate research. The goal is to involve students with actively contested questions, empirical observation, cutting-edge technologies, and the sense of excitement that comes from working to answer important questions. Now, it seems to me like that can be achieved with more than carefully planned research projects. I'm envisioning a future panel of undergraduates who focus on, say, what popular television programming tells us about how our social values have changed, on what the current iteration of Captain America or Captain Marvel signifies about our culture, sexuality, and race, how aesthetics and design enrich our lives in significant yet subtle ways, or even existential analyses of what it means to become a researcher. I don't know about you, but next year I want to attend the humanities panel. Thank you. There's a few minutes. I know we started off a little bit behind schedule, but if there are any questions, I'm here to respond to them or think with you about them.
So the question is how STEM and non-STEM researchers might work together. And an example that I was thinking of, given Dr. Okonkwo's question, is a field of psychology called neurophenomenology, which looks at the biological signature of human experiences and pairs it with descriptions of that experience. So for example, a neurophenomenologist may employ an fMRI machine of someone who is experiencing a deep, dark depression. And so during one of these pangs of maybe feelings of worthlessness, for example, we have the neural signature of what that might mean, and we would need the technicians to help read the fMRI, and we would get a sort of neural signature of what's going on biologically or neurologically in the nervous system. But that by itself doesn't really help us understand how a person's world has transformed. So they need to pair up with someone who's an expert in analyzing human experience. And so you get someone to describe, this is what that was like, and here's what it looks like neurologically. So that way, maybe pharmaceutical companies or psychiatrists can understand what the human problem is that they're treating, and then what that looks like biologically. And so that collaboration has been ongoing for about 30, 40 years, and in my opinion, there hasn't been a satisfactory union of those two. So more to the question, is it possible to have a genuine collaboration? In my experience, there's always someone in the driver's seat, and if the person in the driver's seat has the biological mindset, they're going to be emphasizing the biological signature, and if the person in the driver's seat is wearing the humanities cap, they're going to emphasize the human experience. And so there's always someone who kind of has the front foot. I'm not sure what it would look like to have a genuine collaboration where they're even footing. Thank you for the question.
A number of times we have students who actually start off their research. And you pointed to that when you talked about hope. And they are quite enthusiastic, and once this proposal comes and goes, they are on it. But as soon as they are bombarded with other assignments and stuff like that, it looks like that hope begins to degenerate. So we have a number of very strong students who have dropped at the middle.
So would there be any advice or any recommendations you can give to them when they begin to drop to that level, when they're feeling like, I don't think I can do this anymore?
Thank you for the question. So the observation is that each of you will hit a point where your projects become difficult, and it's impossible to predict when that point will happen and what the specific problem you face will be. And your first inclination is going to be, well, life would be a lot easier without this project. So what you have to do right now is make a commitment to your project, and you have to nurture it like it's a plant that needs water, it needs tending to, and that means, in my experience, that means making time for it each week, even if all you do is just sit with it. And so what you're doing is practicing the routine, and you become familiar with that routine, and pretty soon that attention you give it, the care that you give it, will shine through in the project itself. In my experience working with colleagues, one of the biggest drawbacks, or one of the biggest roadblocks that they hit is giving up when that difficulty hits. And the thing that really marks the successful and productive colleague is the people who can say, yeah, this time is hard, but I'm just gonna kind of ignore the difficulty and just keep plugging away at it because it doesn't feel like a lot, but over time, the little minutes here and there, the hours here and there add up. And so that's what the commitment is, and in the model that was fidelity. Thank you. And for the sake of time, I'm going to conclude it there. If you have any questions, I do have an email address, which is there. Feel free to shoot me an email, and I'll give you a thoughtful response. Thank you.
All right, let's give Dr. Whitehead one more round of applause for that wonderful speech. So we've reached the point of our program where we take a very brief, I emphasize, very brief intermission. So approximately 5 minutes. So presenters don't go too far, so in about 5 minutes, let us return here so that we can begin our proposal presentation.